The forest was alive with the sounds of nature, a symphony of chirping birds and rustling leaves under the soft glow of the morning sun. Ethan adjusted the straps of his backpack as he led the small group down the winding trail. "Let's take it slow today," he said, his voice calm but authoritative. The ground still damp from the rain last night. Behind him, Maya smiled as she examined a patch of wildflowers along the path. "Slow is good. Gives us more time to enjoy the scenery." Sam, carrying a camera slung around his neck, chuckled. "Slow also means Rex can sniff every rock and tree in sight." Rex, a German shepherd with an alert demeanor and sharp amber eyes, wagged his tail as if in response. The dog was the unofficial leader of their group, always staying a few steps ahead, his nose low to the ground. As they ventured deeper into the forest, the atmosphere shifted. The dense canopy overhead blocked out most of the sunlight, casting long shadows across the trail. Ethan noticed Rex's behavior change. His usual curious sniffing became more purposeful. His ears perked as he scanned the area. "Something's caught his attention," Ethan muttered, stopping to watch the dog. Rex let out a low growl, his body tense as he turned his head toward a narrow offshoot of the trail. "What is it, boy?" Maya asked, stepping closer. Rex barked sharply, his tail stiff as he pulled against the leash. Ethan frowned. It wasn't unusual for Rex to react to wildlife, but this felt different. "I think he wants us to follow," Sam said, raising his camera to snap a photo of Rex. "Maybe he found something," Maya added, her curiosity piqued. Ethan hesitated. They had planned a simple hike, nothing too adventurous. But Rex's insistence was hard to ignore. "All right," he said finally. "Let's see what's got him so worked up." "Stay close, though." Rex led the way, his movements quick and deliberate. The group followed, stepping carefully over tangled roots and damp leaves. The air grew cooler as they moved off the main trail, the shadows deepening around them. After several minutes, Rex stopped abruptly, his body rigid as he stared ahead. Ethan followed the dog's gaze and felt a chill run down his spine. In a small clearing stood an enormous structure made of intertwined branches, leaves, and vines. It resembled a bird's nest, but was far too large, easily the size of a small car. "What on earth is that?" Maya whispered, her voice barely audible. Sam adjusted his camera, his fingers trembling slightly as he focused the lens. "It looks man-made, but not really. Who could have built this?" Ethan stepped closer, studying the nest-like structure. The branches were twisted and woven together with an almost deliberate precision. "It doesn't look abandoned," he said. "There's no moss or decay. Someone, or something, made this recently." Rex barked again, louder this time, breaking the group's trance. The sharp sound echoed through the clearing, and for a moment, everything went still. Then, from within the nest, a faint but unmistakable voice called out, "Help! Help!" Maya gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "Did you hear that?" Sam lowered his camera, his face pale. "There's someone inside." Ethan's heart raced. He turned to Rex, who was now pacing near the base of the nest, barking furiously. "Stay calm," Ethan said, trying to steady his voice. "We don't know what's going on yet." The group moved closer to the nest, their steps cautious. The voice called out again, this time louder, "Help me. Please." "Who's in there?" Ethan shouted, his voice firm but controlled. There was no response, only silence. Then, the voice repeated, "Help me." "It sounds strange," Sam said, his brow furrowed. "Like it's being repeated." "Doesn't matter," Ethan replied. "If there's even a chance someone's trapped, we have to help." Rex barked again, his urgency spurring them into action. Ethan examined the nest, looking for a way in. The branches were thick and tightly woven, forming a nearly impenetrable wall. "We'll need to cut through this," he said. "Anyone have a knife?" Maya pulled a small folding knife from her backpack. It's not much, but it's a start. As Ethan began cutting away at the branches, Rex stood watch, his growls low and steady. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, the usual sounds of wildlife eerily absent. Sam filmed the scene with his camera, his unease evident in the way his hands shook. "This feels wrong," he muttered. "What if it's a trap?" Ethan paused, glancing back at the group. "If someone's in danger, we can't just walk away. Rex led us here for a reason." The voice called out again, sending a shiver through Maya. "Help me. Please." "Keep going," Ethan said, his resolve hardening. With each branch they removed, the tension grew thicker. The group worked in silence, their breaths fogging in the cool air. Finally, after what felt like hours, Ethan managed to create a small opening in the nest. He shone a flashlight inside, the beam cutting through the darkness. What he saw made his breath catch in his throat. Ethan's flashlight beam illuminated the dark interior of the nest, revealing a tangle of branches, leaves, and something unexpected, feathers. They were bright, vibrant, and scattered across the ground like clues waiting to be pieced together. "Feathers?" Maya whispered, leaning in for a closer look. "What kind of bird would build something this big?" "I'm not sure it's just a bird," Ethan muttered, his voice low. Rex barked sharply, his growl rumbling like distant thunder. He stood stiffly beside Ethan, his gaze fixed on the nest. The voice called out again, louder and more desperate, "Help me. Please." Ethan gripped the edges of the opening, trying to see deeper inside. The light revealed movement, something shifting among the branches. "There's definitely something in there," he said, pulling back. "We need to get it out." "But what if it's dangerous?" Sam asked, his camera clutched tightly in his hands. "What if it's not human?" "We don't leave people behind," Ethan said firmly. "If there's a chance someone's in trouble, we help." Maya nodded, already pulling out her folding knife again. "Let's keep cutting. We'll figure it out as we go." The group worked methodically, slicing and pulling at the branches that formed the outer shell of the nest. The structure was remarkably sturdy, as if it had been designed to withstand an assault. "This doesn't feel natural," Sam muttered, snapping a photo of the intricate weaving. "It's too precise, too deliberate." "Could be instinct," Maya suggested. "Animals can do incredible things when it comes to survival." "Maybe," Ethan said, though doubt lingered in his mind. Rex growled again, his nose pressed against the ground. He pawed at the dirt near the base of the nest, uncovering a broken branch that smelled faintly of something metallic. "Blood?" Ethan guessed, crouching to examine it. Maya winced. "Do you think someone's hurt in there?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stood and resumed cutting, his movements more determined than before. As the opening widened, the sounds inside grew louder, rustling, shifting, and the eerie repetition of the voice, "Help me. Please." "Doesn't that sound off to you?" Sam asked, his tone uneasy. "It's like the same phrase over and over." "It's all the more reason to hurry," Ethan replied. "Who knows how long they've been trapped in there?" Finally, the group broke through enough of the branches to peer deeper into the nest. Ethan shone his flashlight inside again, the beam landing on a pile of leaves and debris. Something moved, and for a split second, he thought he saw a flash of color, green and yellow, shimmering in the light. "Did you see that?" he asked, glancing back at the others. Maya nodded, her eyes wide. "What was it?" Before Ethan could respond, the voice rang out again, this time startlingly close, "Help me." Rex barked furiously, his growls growing more insistent. Ethan stepped back, gesturing for Sam to join him. "Get your camera in there. Maybe you can see something I can't." Sam hesitated, then moved cautiously forward, angling his camera through the opening. The flash illuminated the interior, revealing more feathers, a twisted piece of rope, and something shiny, a small metal tag. "What's that?" Maya asked, pointing to the tag visible in the photo preview. Ethan squinted at the image. Looks like a tracking device? Maybe someone was studying the area, Sam suggested. Or tracking wildlife. Or something more, Ethan said grimly. The group's discussion was interrupted by a sudden noise, a loud fluttering sound, like wings beating against the branches. What was that? Maya gasped, stepping back. Ethan motioned for everyone to stay calm. It's moving. Whatever's inside, it's moving. Rex lunged forward, his bark sharp and commanding. The movement inside the nest intensified, the rustling turning into a chaotic flurry of sound. Ethan grabbed a long branch and began prying open the remaining gaps in the nest. Get ready, he warned. We're about to find out what's in there. The final branch snapped, and a blur of green and yellow burst from the nest, flapping wildly. Maya let out a startled cry as the creature flew past her, landing on a nearby tree branch. It's a bird, Sam said, his voice laced with disbelief. A parrot. The parrot cocked its head, its bright eyes scanning the group. Then, in a voice eerily similar to a human's, it repeated, "Help me. Please." For a moment, no one spoke. The tension that had gripped them for hours dissolved into a mixture of relief and incredulity. A parrot? Maya said finally, her voice breaking into a laugh. That's what's been screaming for help this whole time? Sam lowered his camera, shaking his head in amazement. I can't believe it. That thing had us convinced there was a person trapped in there. Ethan exhaled deeply, leaning on the branch he had used to pry open the nest. Well, I guess we solved the mystery. Rex trotted over to the base of the tree where the parrot perched, wagging his tail as if satisfied with their discovery. The parrot continued to watch them, occasionally mimicking phrases it had likely learned from its previous owner. It must have been someone's pet, Maya said. It knows how to talk like a human. That's why it sounded so real. Ethan nodded. And it built that nest for itself. Smart bird. So, what do we do now? Sam asked, glancing between the parrot and the remnants of the nest. We take it with us, Ethan said. If it has a tracking device, someone might be looking for it. As the group prepared to leave, the parrot flew down from the tree, landing on Rex's back. The dog froze, his ears flicking as he looked up at the bird. Maya laughed. Looks like it's already made a friend. Rex barked softly, wagging his tail as the parrot perched comfortably between his shoulders. Let's get back to the station, Ethan said. Something tells me this story isn't over yet. The forest felt different as the group began their trek back to the main trail. The sense of urgency that had driven them earlier was gone, replaced by a mix of relief and disbelief. The parrot, now perched confidently on Maya's shoulder, seemed to revel in its newfound attention. Its green and yellow feathers shimmered in the filtered sunlight as it tilted its head and squawked. Help me. Help me, it repeated, earning a laugh from Sam. At least it's consistent, he said, snapping a photo of the bird. Maya smiled, though her grip on the parrot was firm. It's incredible how realistic its voice is. No wonder we thought someone was trapped. Ethan, walking ahead with Rex, glanced back. We still need to figure out where it came from. That tracking device might tell us something. The group's progress was slow, the uneven terrain made more challenging by the remnants of the recent rain. Rex navigated the path with ease, his nose to the ground as he led the way. Good boy, Rex, Ethan said, patting the dog's side. Rex barked softly, his tail wagging as if acknowledging the praise. Sam fell into step beside Ethan, his camera swinging at his side. Do you think someone's looking for this bird? Probably, Ethan replied. It's too well trained to have been in the wild for long. My guess is it got lost, or someone abandoned it. Abandoned? Maya said, frowning. Why would anyone do that? Ethan shrugged. People do strange things. But if it has a tracking device, there's a good chance we can trace it back to its owner. As they walked, the parrot's behavior became a source of amusement. It mimicked not only human phrases but also sounds from the forest, bird calls, rustling leaves, even the occasional bark from Rex. "That's uncanny," Sam said, laughing as the parrot imitated Rex's bark almost perfectly. Maya grinned. "It's like having a tiny recorder with wings." The light-hearted atmosphere was a welcome change from the tension of earlier. Even Rex seemed more relaxed, trotting alongside Ethan with his ears perked but no longer tense. However, the peace didn't last long. As they neared a narrow ravine, Rex stopped abruptly, his body stiffening as he let out a low growl. "What is it, boy?" Ethan asked, scanning the area. Rex's growl deepened, his gaze fixed on the dense underbrush to their left. "Do you see something?" Maya asked, her voice tinged with unease. Ethan raised a hand to signal for silence. The group stopped, their laughter fading as they listened intently. For a moment, the forest was eerily quiet. Then, a faint rustling sound broke the stillness. It was coming from the underbrush, moving closer with each passing second. Sam gripped his camera tightly, his knuckles white. "Please tell me that's just a rabbit or something." Ethan motioned for Rex to stay close as he stepped toward the sound, his flashlight in hand. "Be careful," Maya whispered, holding the parrot protectively. Ethan pushed aside a branch, his flashlight cutting through the shadows. A pair of bright yellow eyes reflected the beam, blinking slowly before disappearing into the darkness. "Whatever it is, it's gone now," he said, stepping back. Rex, however, remained on edge, his growls low and continuous. "Let's keep moving," Ethan said. "Stay close, and keep an eye out." The tension lingered as they continued along the trail. The parrot, sensing the group's unease, remained quiet for the first time since its rescue. "Do you think it was another animal?" Maya asked, glancing at Ethan. "Most likely," he replied, though he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Rex's behavior only added to his concern. The dog stayed closer than usual, his movements cautious as he scanned their surroundings. Eventually, the group reached a clearing where they decided to take a break. Maya set the parrot on a low branch, keeping a close eye on it as it preened its feathers. Sam sat on a fallen log, reviewing the photos on his camera. "This has to be one of the weirdest hikes I've ever been on," he said, shaking his head. "Agreed," Maya said, sitting beside him. "But at least it has a happy ending." Ethan stood near the edge of the clearing, his gaze fixed on the trail ahead. "Let's hope so," he said quietly. As they prepared to move on, Ethan took a closer look at the parrot's tracking device. It was small, attached to a metal band around the bird's leg, with a series of numbers etched into its surface. "This might help us figure out where it came from," he said, showing it to Maya. She nodded. "Do you think we can trace it back to an owner?" "If we can get the right equipment, maybe," Ethan replied. "But we'll have to wait until we're back at the station." The remainder of the journey passed without incident, though the group remained on edge. The forest seemed to close in around them, the trees casting long shadows as the sun dipped lower in the sky. When they finally emerged onto the main trail, a collective sigh of relief swept through the group. "Almost there," Ethan said, glancing at Rex. The dog wagged his tail but didn't relax entirely, his ears still perked as he watched the surrounding forest. As the ranger station came into view, the parrot squawked loudly, breaking the silence. "Help me," it repeated, earning a laugh from Sam. "I think it's going to be saying that for the rest of its life," he said. Maya smiled, reaching up to stroke the parrot's feathers. "Well, at least it'll never be ignored." Ethan opened the door to the station, ushering everyone inside. "Let's get this bird settled," he said. "We've got some work to do." Inside the ranger station, the atmosphere was a mix of relief and curiosity. The parrot perched on a wooden stand Ethan had hastily set up, occasionally ruffling its feathers and repeating snippets of phrases it had learned. Help me, it squawked, tilting its head as if amused by the group's reactions. Maya chuckled softly. It's still strange to hear that coming from a bird. Sam set his camera on the table, scrolling through the photos he'd taken. Strange is an understatement. This whole day has felt like something out of a movie. Ethan stood by the window, his gaze distant. Rex sat beside him, the dog's posture relaxed yet attentive. We're not done yet, Ethan said, turning to face the group. That tracker might hold the key to this bird's story. Ethan carefully removed the metal band from the parrot's leg, examining the numbers etched into its surface. This looks like an ID code, he said, holding it up for Maya and Sam to see. Think we can trace it? Maya asked, leaning closer. Ethan nodded. I know a wildlife researcher who might be able to help. If this bird was part of a study or an aviary, they'll have records. He walked over to the station's desk and dialed a number from memory. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Dr. Hensley, Ethan said. It's Ethan Coleman. I need your expertise on something unusual. As Ethan explained the situation, Dr. Hensley listened intently on the other end of the line. A parrot with a tracker, you say? She asked, her tone curious. Can you read me the ID code? Ethan recited the numbers, his voice steady. There was a pause before Dr. Hensley replied. That's part of a private registry. The bird likely came from a licensed breeder or a private collection. Can you find out who it belongs to? Ethan asked. Give me a few hours, Dr. Hensley said. I'll call you back once I have something. While they waited, the group settled into the station. Maya fed the parrot bits of fruit, laughing as it mimicked her encouragement. Good bird, she said, and the parrot squawked the phrase back at her, its tone oddly cheerful. Sam uploaded his photos to a laptop, scrolling through the images. This one's my favorite, he said, showing a close-up of Rex standing guard near the nest. He looks like a hero. He is, Ethan said, scratching Rex behind the ears. We wouldn't have found the parrot without him. As the sun began to set, the phone rang. Ethan answered quickly, his heart racing. I've got a name for you, Dr. Hensley said. The bird is registered to a family about 50 miles from your location. The owner reported it missing months ago. Do you have their contact information? Ethan asked, grabbing a pen. Dr. Hensley provided the details, and Ethan thanked her before hanging up. Well? Maya asked, her eyes bright with anticipation. The bird belongs to a family nearby, Ethan said. We should get in touch with them. Ethan called the number, and after a few rings, a woman's voice answered. Hello? Hi, this is Ethan Coleman. I'm a ranger at the Forest Reserve. I believe we found your parrot. There was a stunned silence on the other end before the woman spoke. You found Polly? Is she okay? She's safe, Ethan assured her. She seems healthy and vocal. The woman laughed, her voice tinged with relief. That sounds like her. We've been looking for her everywhere. How did she end up there? It's a long story, Ethan said. But if you'd like, you can come to the station to see her. An hour later, a car pulled into the station's parking lot. A woman in her late 30s stepped out, her eyes scanning the area anxiously. That must be her, Maya said, standing by the window. Ethan opened the door, Rex trotting out to greet the visitor. Hi, the woman said, her voice trembling with emotion. I'm Claire. You said you found my parrot? She's right inside, Ethan said, gesturing for Claire to follow him. As soon as Claire entered the room, the parrot squawked loudly. Help me! Help me! Claire froze, her hands covering her mouth. Polly? The parrot tilted its head, its eyes locking onto Claire. Good bird, it chirped, flapping its wings. Tears streamed down Claire's face as she approached the stand. Polly, it's really you. The bird hopped onto her outstretched arm, nuzzling her affectionately. "It's like she knows you," Maya said, smiling at the reunion. "She does," Claire said, her voice breaking. "We've had her since she was a chick. She's part of our family." As the group watched the emotional reunion, Claire shared Polly's story. "We lost her during a camping trip months ago," she said. "A storm came through, and she got scared. She flew off, and we couldn't find her." "She's incredibly resourceful," Ethan said. "That nest she built was impressive." Claire nodded, stroking Polly's feathers. "She's always been clever. But we were so worried about her. Thank you for finding her." "It wasn't just us," Maya said, glancing at Rex. "Rex was the one who led us to her." Claire crouched to pet Rex, her smile widening. "You're a hero, aren't you?" Rex wagged his tail, his eyes bright with pride. As the evening wore on, Claire prepared to leave with Polly. The group gathered outside the station, watching as the parrot perched happily on her arm. "Thank you again," Claire said. "I don't know what we would have done without her." "You're welcome," Ethan replied. "We're just glad she's safe." As Claire drove away, the group stood in silence for a moment, reflecting on the day's events. "Well," Sam said finally, "that was one for the books." Back inside, the station felt quieter without Polly's constant chatter. Maya leaned against the counter, a thoughtful expression on her face. "It's funny," she said. "We thought we were rescuing someone, but in a way, Polly rescued us. She brought us together." Ethan nodded. "She reminded us to listen, even when things don't make sense." Rex let out a soft bark, wagging his tail as if in agreement. "We couldn't have done it without you, boy," Ethan said, kneeling to ruffle Rex's fur. The dog leaned into the touch, his eyes warm with affection. The next morning, the ranger station felt quieter than usual. The sun streamed through the windows, casting warm beams across the wooden floors, but the absence of Polly's lively chatter left a noticeable void. Rex lay sprawled near the fireplace, his ears flicking occasionally at the sound of birds outside. Ethan sat at the table with a cup of coffee in hand, staring at the photos Sam had printed from the previous day. "She's something, isn't she?" Maya said, joining him at the table. She held one of the photos, a close-up of Polly perched on Rex's back, her bright feathers vibrant against the dog's fur. "She is," Ethan replied, a small smile tugging at his lips. "That bird's smarter than most people I've met." Sam entered the room, his camera slung over his shoulder. "You guys are up early," he said, setting his gear on the counter. "Couldn't sleep," Ethan said. "Still thinking about yesterday." "Me too," Maya added. "It's not every day you get tricked by a parrot and then end up saving it." Sam chuckled. "She's a character, all right. I've already got a title for the article I'm writing, 'The Parrot Who Cried Wolf.'" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You're writing about this?" "Of course," Sam said. "It's too good not to share. People need stories like this, something to make them smile." The group spent the morning tidying up the station and preparing for their next responsibilities. The sense of camaraderie from their shared experience lingered, making the work feel lighter. Maya took Rex out for a walk, the dog trotting happily beside her as they explored the familiar trails. "You were amazing yesterday," she said, scratching behind his ears. "We wouldn't have found Polly without you." Rex barked softly, his tail wagging. As they walked, Maya reflected on how the events of the previous day had brought the group closer together. Each of them had played a part in Polly's rescue, and Rex had been their guide through it all. Back at the station, Ethan took a call from Claire. "I just wanted to thank you again," she said. "Polly's settling in well. It's like she never left." "I'm glad to hear that," Ethan replied. "She's a remarkable bird." "She is," Claire agreed. "And you all are remarkable, too. What you did for her, and for us, it means the world." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. "We were happy to help. Give her a scratch on the head for us." I will, Claire said, her voice filled with gratitude. Later that afternoon, the group gathered outside the station, enjoying the crisp forest air. Sam set up his camera to take a group photo, positioning everyone in front of the ranger station sign. Rex, you're in the middle, Sam said, motioning for the dog to sit in front of Ethan and Maya. Rex obeyed, sitting proudly with his ears perked. Okay, everyone ready? Sam asked, stepping back to adjust the timer. The camera clicked, capturing the moment, a snapshot of their unexpected adventure and the bond they'd formed through it. As the day wound down, Ethan reflected on the lessons the experience had taught him. It's funny, he said to Maya as they sat on the porch. We went into that forest thinking we were going to save someone. Turns out, we were the ones who needed saving. Maya nodded. Polly reminded us to listen and to trust each other, even when things didn't make sense. And Rex reminded us to trust our instincts, Ethan added, glancing at the dog. Rex let out a soft bark, his tail thumping against the wooden porch. That evening, the group shared a quiet meal together, the warmth of the fire adding to the cozy atmosphere. Sam showed them the final set of photos he planned to include in his article, each one capturing a different moment of their journey. This one's my favorite, he said, pointing to a shot of Polly perched on Maya's shoulder, squawking as Rex looked up at her. It sums up the whole day, unexpected, a little chaotic, but memorable. Maya laughed. That's one way to describe it. Ethan smiled, his gaze lingering on the photo. It's a good reminder of what we're capable of when we work together. As the night deepened, the group began to wind down, each of them lost in their own thoughts. Maya wrote in her journal, recounting the day's events in vivid detail. Sam organized his gear, preparing for his next adventure. Ethan stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the cool night air. Rex followed him, sitting quietly at his side. Good job out there, buddy, Ethan said, scratching behind the dog's ears. You're the real hero of this story. Rex nuzzled his hand, his eyes full of trust and loyalty. The stars shone brightly overhead, the forest alive with the soft sounds of nocturnal animals. Ethan felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. He glanced down at Rex, who was watching the trees with his usual vigilance. We've got a good thing here, don't we? Ethan said. Rex barked once, his tail wagging. Ethan smiled. Let's keep it that way. The days following Polly's rescue brought a sense of calm to the ranger station. The forest seemed to exhale in relief, its usual rhythm returning as if to remind the group that life always moves forward. Ethan stood on the porch one morning, a steaming mug of coffee in hand. Rex lay at his feet, his ears twitching occasionally as he listened to the sounds of the forest. Maya joined him, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. It's quiet without Polly, isn't it? Ethan chuckled. Too quiet. I almost miss hearing "help me" every 5 minutes. Maya laughed, her breath visible in the crisp air. She definitely left an impression. Inside, Sam was busy editing his article. He'd already sent a draft to his editor, who was eager to publish the story. This is going to get a lot of attention, Sam said, glancing up at Ethan and Maya as they came inside. People love a good animal story, especially one with a happy ending. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Think anyone will believe it? Sam grinned. They don't have to believe it. They just have to feel it. Maya nodded. It's not just about Polly. It's about what she represented, resilience, trust, and a little bit of humor in the chaos. Later that afternoon, a package arrived at the station. Ethan opened it to find a small framed photo of Polly, along with a handwritten note from Claire. Dear Ethan, Maya, Sam, and Rex. Thank you for bringing Polly back to us. She's already back to her old tricks, making us laugh every day. We'll never forget what you did for her, and for us. With gratitude. Claire and family. Maya smiled as she read the note aloud. That's sweet. We should send something back to her. Let's hang this up, Ethan said, holding the frame. It's a good reminder of what we're here for. The photo found a home on the wall near the station's entryway, where visitors often stopped to read about the reserve's history and the work of the rangers. Polly's story quickly became a favorite among guests, especially children, who marveled at the idea of a talking parrot building a giant nest. Rex became a minor celebrity in his own right, with visitors often asking to meet the hero dog. He took the attention in stride, accepting pats and treats with quiet dignity. "You've got fans now," Ethan said one day, scratching Rex behind the ears. The dog wagged his tail, his amber eyes warm with affection. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the group gathered around a fire pit outside the station. The warmth of the flames cast flickering shadows, and the air was filled with the scent of wood smoke. Sam passed around cups of hot cocoa, his camera resting beside him. "So, what's next for us?" he asked, his tone light but curious. Maya shrugged. "I guess we go back to normal. As normal as it gets out here, anyway." Ethan nodded. The work never stops. But it's moments like these that remind us why we do it. The conversation turned to reflections on their journey and the lessons they'd learned. "Polly taught us something important," Maya said, her voice thoughtful. "Sometimes, the things we think are problems turn out to be opportunities to connect and grow." "And Rex taught us to trust our instincts," Ethan added. "Even when things don't make sense, sometimes you just have to follow the bark." Sam laughed. "And I learned that you can never have too many batteries for your camera." The group chuckled, the lightness of the moment a testament to how far they'd come together. As the fire burned lower, Ethan glanced at Rex, who was lying contentedly near his feet. "You've been through a lot with me, haven't you, boy?" he said, his voice soft. Rex lifted his head, his ears perking as if in acknowledgement. Maya smiled. "He's more than a dog, Ethan. He's family." Ethan nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "Yeah, he is." In the days that followed, life at the reserve continued its steady rhythm. The group found themselves busier than ever, with new projects and responsibilities to tackle. But Polly's story remained a touchstone, a reminder of the bond they shared and the importance of their work. Visitors often stopped to ask about the parrot, and Ethan found himself retelling the story more times than he could count. Each time, he noticed how it brought a smile to people's faces, connecting them to the magic of the forest. Months later, a letter arrived from Claire, accompanied by a photo of Polly in her home. "She's doing great," Claire wrote. "We've even taught her some new phrases, though 'help me' is still her favorite. Thank you again for bringing her back to us." Ethan showed the letter to Maya and Sam, who smiled at the update. "She's thriving," Maya said. "That's all we could hope for." Ethan nodded. "It's good to know we made a difference." One quiet evening, Ethan and Rex walked to the edge of the reserve, the stars shining brightly above them. The air was crisp, the forest alive with the soft sounds of nocturnal creatures. Ethan knelt beside Rex, resting a hand on the dog's back. "Thanks for everything, buddy," he said. "You're the reason we found her. You're the reason this place feels like home." Rex nuzzled his hand, his tail wagging gently. As they stood together, Ethan felt a deep sense of peace. The forest, the reserve, and the bonds he'd built with those around him, it all felt exactly as it should be. They turned back toward the station, the warm glow of the porch light guiding their way. And though the night was quiet, Ethan couldn't help but hear echoes of Polly's voice in his mind, a reminder of the unexpected moments that make life extraordinary.